flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Public comment period. Any public comments? Okay, no public comments. Minutes. Approval of the August 10th, 2023 meeting minutes. I didn't have any comments on it. These are fine. This is, you and I on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
No comment.
No comments? Okay. All right, then I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Treasurer report, bills to be paid.
So you have before you the monthly treasurer's report for the month of August. Revenue collections are ahead of budget so far for the year. They're at 79.8%, and expenditures are trending under budget at approximately 59.41%. I will note that because we've had the big construction projects, that the gap will close a bit now that we're getting some bigger bills in for asphalt and that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then our recommendation is in October, we will be prepared to talk to the board about opportunities for reinvesting in CDs for some of our funds.
Okay. We good? All right, then I'll make a motion to accept the treasury report as presented and file for audit. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Bills to be paid.
All right, so before you have a list of the bills to be paid for the month of August. As I just mentioned, we do have some bigger bills in there for asphalt and sacks and cents for the road projects. The total for bills for August is $235,683.34. I will also note that we also have in there, we did have to do an emergency repair at Ivy Ridge sewer plant a couple weeks ago, and that cost us about $40,000. No violations occurred, but that was another big expense.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I have none.
All right, then I will make a motion to approve payment of the bills totaling $235,683.34 and to advance of the treasurer the funds to pay any needed bills or expenditures to save penalties or accrue interest and payroll prior to the Board of Supervisors regular meeting on October 12, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Emergency services.
All right, doesn't look like we have anyone out there from the ambulance, so they had 24 calls in the month of August, 10 of which were to Frederick Living, and the Upper Frederick Fire Company had 14 calls.
Okay.
You see that? Okay. All right, we're not seeing our water sewer operator, so I'll go ahead and just give his quick report, quick summary. So as I mentioned, at Ivy Ridge, we did have an emergency with regard to the electricity and communication lines, so we had to do an emergency repair there. We still need to repave the portion of the driveway that had to be dug up to replace those lines. We did have the contractor enclose the lines in concrete to avoid this happening in the future. With regard to the water plant, we also had quite a few large expenditures. Most recently, well number 2, the pump in well number 2 was starting to fail, so we had to repair that, and as part of that repair process, they had to do a bunch of repairs to the pipe that goes down in the well. It was pretty flawed. So that's working really well now, and then we also had to replace one of the booster pumps, and think for those of you living in Park Crossing, you've probably noticed a nice improvement in your water pressure now that that's online. We still need to replace the second booster pump, so I've asked the fire company to hold off making withdrawals from the fire hydrants until we get that second booster pump replaced.
Public Works?
Yes, seasonal mowing as usual, township buildings, parks, cemetery, and sewer plants. We help with the EV charger, with the trench, the conduit, and whatever else the electrician would need to get that all up and running. Our township guardrails, guide rails I like to call them, reflectivity for the wintertime months. I was out with the American Leak Detection out of Ephrata, and they are in sweep the area of Hunter because of the low pressure issues that were occurring up there prior to the booster pumps. So I took him around various areas. I was hoping that he had a better report for you all, but he didn't submit it in. But we met out there and we went over different areas and found no leaks in the area, so, which is great. As well as I met with the Montgomery County Conservation District for a possible low volume road grant for Creek Lane, which that will come at a later date. We're still going all through the whole logistics on that. The electric at Ivy Ridge we helped out with there to get the things moving on as well with that. Just going down the list here with the road edges, maintenance, just typical maintenance to our roads there. The base repair on Swan Creek, so I'll skip down. And with the equipment, the loader, we had to do a 500-hour service, which Groff Tractor came in. They're also plaster, also known as that. The 410 backhoe was just minor electrical, we did that in-house. The 750, we did that in-house as well, that was exhaust clamps. And road mowing was put off on hold for about 2 weeks because it went down for hydros and the PTO, but it was all worry work. So now we're up back and running and taking care of road mowing. Questions? As for the Faust Road, I'm sure it's in the engineer's report, that's going really well out there, and we're actually hoping to get that done tomorrow.
Good job. You get a chance, look at Stafford Station.
Stafford
It's
Station.
really starting to come apart in the center and moving into the drive lane.
Yeah, that's right there where.
All the asphalt, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just moving out.
that's on our list to actually saw cut that out and take that out to us.
Yeah, Steve, just tell the guys and yourself, great work out there driving around in the township. It
Will do.
looks good.
Thank you.
I think you do a lot of, you and the guys do a great work, a great job on preventative maintenance. So
Thank you. I
I
will
think
get that
I
on.
think it looks great.
Appreciate that. Good.
Okay.
I do have one question. There was a generator for Ivy Ridge, a backup generator in case something happened. That was removed.
Yes.
That was
yeah.
removed.
That was removed. That was part of the BSIs
Yeah.
who came in and did all that work for us.
Right.
They hooked up the backup generator there.
It's good to go.
Yeah. We're back online with our old generator.
Yeah, and it sounds like they're going to include the use of that as part of that $40,000 overall charge. We were concerned that that would be on top of it, but it sounds like they're gonna include that in.
Good.
Okay. Civil engineers report.
Okay, LTL's updated the engineer's report for the month of September. You should have a copy of that in your packet. And several items here are other agenda items on your agenda for tonight's meeting, but the one that is not, Steve had alluded to earlier, Faust and Sweetsford Road. Sweetsford Road is done. I think it turned out real well, especially with the township's effort on the roadside work. So not wishing a good rain on us, but we'll see how it performs after we get a good rain and see if it improves. As far as Faust Road goes, the swale is essentially done. They were putting low flow channels in, but thought it turned out really nicely. I think it'll definitely fix the roadside erosion that's washing into your creek. That's a good thing. And then the plan, they did the base repairs today. The road will be closed tomorrow from about 8:30 to 3 or 3:30, something like that. We need to keep it open for the buses. Steve was great, he called the school district, and they only had one bus coming in at midday, and it only involved one child, so they switched things around so we could shut the road down, because we want to do the paving, the scratch, and then the overlay, a single pass. It'll do a much nicer road, nicer job for the township. So fingers crossed, we don't have any breakdowns, we don't have any issues with asphalt delivery or anything like that. Tomorrow, by the end of the day, we should have, Faust Road should be done and open and good to go.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll let you know, and I'm sure when it comes to asphalt bills, if you wanna send that over to us, we'll take a look at that and make sure that it matches up. Because we have had instances where the township has gotten billed for, from other contractors, by accident, but that's the reason we keep all the slips and check all that stuff, so we can certainly do that. Okay, any questions, I can answer them, otherwise, that's really about it. Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sure,
Don.
thank you. Okay, building inspector and zoning report.
So the inspector had 14 inspections and 5 permits in the month of August. I think, Ken, you're gonna give us an update on Spillane? That
We
situation
had a
today?
summary trial today. Mr. Spillane was found guilty. The fine was reduced because in the ordinance for which we cited him, it had been amended, and it says for a first violation, the fine can only be $100. So that's what the judge imposed.
Okay.
Hopefully there won't be any further.
Right,
And I'm told the property is still compliant. That was from John Cook, Township Code Enforcement Officer.
great. And then the other property at Perkiomenville and Deep Creek, there's been no indications of anyone being on the property. I think John has had some email communications with the property owner, and she's indicated that she's out west at this point for an undetermined amount of time.
Okay.
All right, no planning commission meeting this past month, no regional planning commission that I'm aware of, and the Parks and Recreation Board, do we have anyone? Oh, Deborah's here.
Yeah, so we have 2 big events this month. We have one on Saturday, September 16th. We are sponsoring a joint pull-through or drive-in movie with Lower Frederick and Upper Salford Townships. Gates are opening at 6:30. It's at the lower lot, at Spring Mount and Clemers Mill Roads. So that, like I said, gates are opening at 6:30, and then that'll start at dusk, and the movie is Luca. And then on September 30th, Saturday, September 30th, between the hours of 10 and 3, we are having our annual community day. We are still looking for artisans, crafters, farmers. So we're still looking for like farmers and local vendors. We're having a chili cook-off, so we're looking for entrance. That's between 11 and 2. And there's a free shredding truck, and that will be here between the hours of 9 and 12 across the street at St. Luke's parking lot. And there's also supposed to be a first responders cornhole tournament, and I guess we're still looking for first responders.
Yeah, we're not sure if that's gonna.
Yeah,
come
we're
through.
looking
We
for
haven't
first
gotten one.
responders.
Yeah. So, and for anyone who's interested, we have some yard signs. If anyone would like to put one up for Community Day, you're welcome to take one tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's update?
For the manager's update, really, we kind of touched on some of the big items. The EV charger is working. We need to kind of figure out rates and that sort of thing, and we're still kind of just playing with it. But I did test it out, and I got 3 kilowatts of charge out of it, so it works. But we haven't figured out all the details about getting charges in place. So we'll come up with some suggestions and come back to you with that for charges. And then the website's been a little delayed. The guy who's been helping us got sidetracked, and I'm trying to get him back to finish some items on that so I can get that to the board to start reviewing. That's it.
Okay. All right, old business. Conditional use 2023-01 decision. This is proposal, conditional use application to allow a private custom automobile restoration and preservation facility, 3-dog garage, location 3029/3045 Big Road, Big Road LLC, here Matt McCall. Okay. Ken, do you want to provide guidance?
Sure. On August 10th, a conditional use that had been properly advertised was held and conducted. There was a stenographer, the applicant appeared, called through and presented evidence from testimony from 3 individuals, a number of written and documentary evidence and so forth. Members of the public attended, asked a lot of questions, the board had questions, and essentially the proceeding was concluded. The record was closed, and instead of making a decision that night, it was voted upon to push the decision till this meeting. So this is now the date and time to deliberate and decide this matter. Conditional uses are essentially uses that are permitted, but they're of such variety that the code authorizes the township to hold a hearing and make a determination whether the use should be allowed to move forward, and if so, should it be subject to any conditions. There were a number of conditions that were presented from other township agencies, the planning commission, I think they came from the county also, and they have been reduced to a written list that I have circulated among you folks. There was one recent suggested amendment by Ed, who was your planner. And I'll read the whole list of conditions if you like, but the third one that was mildly or slightly amended was just had a short addition. So it read, provide a 10-foot easement for possible future trail connection along frontage of property with alignment flexibility to avoid vegetation. And then this would be the addition. And build features and with allowable grading beyond the easement as necessary for drainage and public safety. So as amended, that would be the list of conditions. So as sometimes happens with 3-member boards, you will recall that at the last hearing, there were only 2 supervisors present. At the conclusion of the proceedings, it was mentioned to me that by the chairman of the board that he should perhaps abstain from voting. We discussed that a little bit, and I think we'll double back to that in just a moment. So since that leaves only 1 supervisor who was present, an available procedure would be for the supervisor who was not present, Mr. DiFrancesco, could read the transcript, which he has done, correct? And he could then participate in the voting. So you may have the chairman abstain if that's his wish, and then you'll have 2 members who would be able to vote and make a decision on the matter. This is not an unusual procedure, it happens, but as courtesy I did consult with the applicant's counsel, and he had no objection to proceeding in that fashion. I also shared with him a list of conditions, because they were essentially the same list that had been discussed the night of the hearing, and I am happy to report that the applicant has no objection to any of the conditions, even the one as amended that I just read.
Perfect.
So, Mr. Chairman, do you, before, in the years ago when I first started practicing, one could just abstain, sometimes abstain for a very limited reason, but an abstention is supposed to be, some explanation is to be given. So,
Right, so I'm abstaining because I am involved in an organization that the applicant donated to. So that's why I'm abstaining.
Okay.
Okay.
And did you derive any personal benefit from that donation, or?
Personal, like money in my bank account, personal?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So I don't know that you need to, but I guess out of an abundance of caution, if you're more comfortable abstaining, then that should be noted in
My
the
personal bank
minutes.
account, right,
Correct.
is what I mean.
Correct. All right, and so we've already covered that Mr. DiFrancesco read the transcript. So without any further ado, now would be your opportunity to deliberate the matter. Mr. Trajanski, was here and heard the testimony. Mr. DeFrancesco read the testimony. I'm not going to summarize it again. I think I essentially already said what needs to be said. 3 witnesses, the project was described. Again, a number of issues were raised and addressed, and the conditions will cover some of those things. The only other thing I would say is that you are to be guided by the following principles under from the zoning ordinance, section 285-35 says you should consider the following. Consider the suitability of the property for the use desired. Assure the board that the proposed change is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of this chapter. B, determine that the proposed change will not substantially injure or detract from the use of neighboring property or from the character of the neighborhood, and that the use of the adjacent property is adequately safeguarded. C is determined that the proposed change will serve the best interest of the township, the convenience of the community, and the public welfare. D, determine that the proposed change, or in this case proposed use, will serve the best interest of the township, the convenience of services and facilities such as water, sewer, police, fire protection, and schools. Not all of these are as applicable as other of the criteria. E reads, consider the suitability of the proposed location of use with respect to probable effects upon traffic and assure adequate access arrangements in order to protect roads from undue congestion and hazard. And F is be guided in its study, review, and recommendation by sound standards of subdivision practice where applicable. So those are the things you would consider in deciding. As an aside, the standard is not as high as, say, the zoning hearing board for a variance. They don't need to prove an undue hardship. Although the proceedings are similar, that is a very important distinction. So you're welcome to discuss at length. You've had a month to think on it. If you're ready to make a motion, you can do that, whatever your pleasure.
Can I still
You can participate in
discussion? But I
discussion.
can't.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So you want to hand this over to me?
Sure.
I want to start with, is there any public comment on this at this point? Okay, I'm seeing. I've gone through the transcripts. I've read every piece and talked to the attorney. I'm ready to make a motion.
I do have one question for the residents that live across from Perkiomen, on Perkiomenville Road. Last month you were here. Do you have any questions regarding the water runoff? Because I think it was demonstrated, to me at least, and I don't know if it was to Sean and everybody else here, that the water runoff, I think, from what I'm told, should be well contained, that you shouldn't receive any further water flow onto your property. Are you comfortable with that, sir? Yes? Okay. Good.
I'll just add, if I may, one related thing is that the next item on the agenda is their preliminary final plan. So the conditional uses is more or less for the use itself. The actual, this project still has to go through land development.
Sure.
And stormwater will be, it's part of the condition list here, and it will of course be, all the rules and requirements for stormwater management will have to be adhered to by the applicant if the plan receives approval and moves forward.
Okay.